Hey everybody, it's Briar Harvey. Welcome back to another episode of Systems Are Messy. This time around, I have Lucas Root back with us to talk about how he plans. Last time we talked about how you should work at home now that you're suddenly working at home. And this time we're going to talk about you use OneNote, right?
I use OneNote. I use it for almost everything.
Huh? It was an early precursor for me before I moved into Notion, and there are some things that I miss, things that Notion still doesn't do, but I was dissatisfied with their development after they shifted from. I'm still bitter about the 2016 shift.
Yeah.
Oh, Windows. So, but you've managed to make it work for you. So go ahead and walk us through what you've got.
What I like about OneNote is that it takes the simplicity of a really simple tool, like an actual notebook, and it gives you the functionality that you might want to build on top of that tool. So you might be thinking, why would you want to build complexity on top of something that's simple? Why not just start with a tool that already has all of that complexity designed in? And I totally understand. I get why somebody would think that, and I don't disagree. But that's the big but.
Mm-hmm.
As business leaders, we're not always working with somebody who has access to the skills and the understanding that we may need in order for them to keep up with a more complex tool. For instance, I use Jira. I don't know if you're familiar with Jira,
Mm-hmm.
but I find Jira to be another fantastic organizational tool. I use Jira in some of my other businesses. This particular business that I'm showcasing, and in fact, the same way that I organize my own thoughts and my own life follows this business, and that's why we're talking about OneNote. So, one of the things that I start out with is a single tab up here. So OneNote calls them sections.
Mm-hmm.
And you can just add a section, and then you can turn this new section into a section group by adding another section and then making it subordinate. So stick it in. Why are you hiding my stuff?
It always does that when you're trying to demonstrate how to do something, as though it knows you're demonstrating, so it wants to make you appear as incompetent as possible. Notion does this to me all of the time.
Yeah. There's a selection, and it's my fault. I've lost it. That turns this into a section group, and then once you have a section group like this, you can add sections in underneath it. And so this is kind of where the notebook functionality starts to show up, because you can do layered sections like the tab in your notebook. So I can add another section in here. New section. And then inside of that, that's when you start to have the pages in your notebook. But here you can still have layers of pages inside your notebook. So for example, in my example, I've got a page. And add page 1, new page, sub page 1. Add page 3 or page 2 before I subordinate that sub page 1. And the nice thing about this is, yeah, then you can hide. So I'll take you through some of the stuff that I actually use. John is the business manager that I work with in this particular business. And John has daily to-dos. So we drop a little table in here, and he walks through some of the daily to-dos. And part of what I do in this business is work with people like you. you open up a table, or you open up a tab, a page, and then you go into insert and you can drop a table in here. And I love to do just two-sided tables because it allows you to organize your thoughts into sort of a category header and then content on the right, which is what you see here. And so, John will start his day with strategy work on pitches, and he'll dig in on some expertise. So do some really deep research on whoever it is that we're working with. Come up with maybe speech ideas, because sometimes what I'm doing isn't being interviewed where it's active like what we're doing here. Sometimes what I'm doing is presenting, which means I have to come with a deeply considered long form presentation that I can just deliver. And then there's editing stuff that we pass back and forth. Sometimes he has homework for me and he passes editing stuff to me. Sometimes I have homework for him.
And OneNote is probably one of the best at the ability to share just even small bits of data. So you can share a page, you can share a subpage, you can share down to the littlest bits, which I really like.
Yeah, I can jump here, and the share button's hidden behind our pictures up here, but I can drop here, hit the share button, and then anybody that's already in my allowed contacts, I could just dump it right in here, and this page will get shared to them without the rest of the notebook. Yeah.
So managing this with multiple people, how often do things slip through the cracks?
Obviously, the tool itself has no workflow in it, right? So there's no option for me to right click here and choose the workflow step that task is sitting in and have it sent to somebody. So we have to have a business process that runs parallel and concurrent to the way that we use this notebook. And it for us and the way that we use this notebook, it works very nicely alongside email. So I'll do work, I'll email him, he'll do work, he'll email back, I'll do work. That's not a whole lot different than using Google Docs, except that the notebook sits on my computer. This notebook, yes, it's a shared notebook, but it sits on my computer. Microsoft will upload the data in the notebook, right? And then download into his computer, which means that it doesn't require an active internet connection. We can do all of the work we need to and then just sync on occasion as necessary.
Yeah, I like that it's an actual app and not a web-based platform.
Yeah. Now, Microsoft 365 does have web-based, and some of the things that they do with that web-based platform, I think, are better. I don't think that it's a useful sacrifice for me, the way that I use my business, to give up the desktop app.
Well, and one of the reasons that OneNote is so functional is that offline capability, because you can take it everywhere and do the work wherever you need to without having that online functionality.
Yep. Now, I would say that some of this functionality, the way that we use this, we could also do the same things in, say, Microsoft Word or even Google Docs, right? So
some of it, not all of it.
Some of it, not all of it, and not to the level of complexity that we do here. Here's an example of some deep work that we've done. This is in building out the idea that we have for who is Lucas Root the speaker, and how are we taking Lucas Root the speaker to market, right? So marketing ideas, potential clients, and we come down here and we build out a very thorough, considered customer avatar, which in this case would be you.
Well, there we go.
There we go.
So How do you review or process then? How often and in what ways?
Mhm. So what's really cool about OneNote, look down here and you'll see that some of these things are bolded. So we can't bold the title intentionally. Well, we could, but I'll tell you what the functionality is. These are bold because something in here has been changed.
Hmm.
So I will come in at certain times during the day, and John knows my schedule. Like I said, you have to have a business process that runs concurrent to your usage of Note. I will come in at certain times of the day and just review the notebook. And anything that has a bold title over here means that there's been changes. So I go in and I take a look at the change. Now, watch. There's no change here. Now I'm going to click on the testimonial, right? Now I'm going to click out of it. Now it's on bold.
Mm-hmm.
So that tells me that after I've clicked out of it, that tells me that there's nothing new to review here in the testimonial. Now I still have something new to review in the exploratory script section, right?
Mm-hmm. That's fantastic. How often do you do this roughly?
I
Daily?
do it twice a day.
Got it.
So in the previous interview, we talked about having routines and what your routines are. My particular morning routine ends at 6 a.m. and I start doing work. The first thing that I do as soon as I'm finished with my morning routine is I review this notebook, mentoring and speaking, and this notebook, which is the notebook of one of my clients.
Cool. All right. Well, that's a really functional workflow. So what then, is there anything that you wish worked better or that you could do better?
Good question. I would like to be able to output messages. So we can actually add messages. And as soon as I do, again, look, it's actually, you won't see it. When I put something in, it won't bold it for me again. But I can click over here and say, John, take a look at blah, blah. And that'll just sit. And now this tab will be bolded for him. So the next time he logs in and takes a look, he'll see first outreach scripts has a bold, and he'll click into outreach scripts and he'll look down here and he'll be like, oh, look, exploratory script has a bold. And then he'll see this note from me and it'll show when that note was updated.
Awesome.
Right? So it makes it easy for us. It keeps track of all the metadata that alongside the business process allows us to run our business the way we do together. But it doesn't output that information. Even if you sign up for notifications, which you can get either text notifications or email notifications, all it tells you is Lucas Root has made an update.
Right.
I think it would be nice to be able to, instead of me having to send him an email saying, hey, I did blah, 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 blah. Here's what I need you to do with that. Or in the case that I decide to put it in here, John, take a look at, right? It would be nice to be able to add that business process into this tool, which I've mentioned I use Jira. So Jira is a great example of how that business process is built right into the tool. John, the business manager I work with in this business, he does not use Jira. So that would not be a useful tool for him.
And I come back to this a lot with my clients and with people I work with. The tool is only good if you use it. It doesn't matter how nifty it looks on paper. If you're not actually going to use the damn thing, it won't do you any good.
I 100% agree. The tool is only good if you use it. I could not have said it better myself.
So what do you do really well when it comes to planning and laying things out?
These structures over here, all this depth of structure in the notebook at the tab level, and then all of these structures in the page level, I lay these out very, very well. The part of the reason that we work this way is because this is kind of the way I think, and so it's a lot easier for me to engage with someone who can engage with the way that I think.
Sure, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah. It is a strength. It's also a weakness. I think, my thoughts, at least in terms of business, my thoughts are very hierarchical. I think in the column, I think from top down. Crossing the columns is a little bit of a challenge for me, for better or worse. I can always navigate there. It just takes a little bit more time. I have to go up to the top and back down the other column.
So tool that works great for more mind mapping, non-hierarchical thinking, if you are ever interested in exploring it, is Rome Research. It's got a daily entry and everything works out of that, but they all cross-link and interlink together in really fascinating ways. It doesn't take long to see some really nifty potential there.
That's pretty cool. Nope. OneNote wouldn't even know where to begin with that.
Nope. But OneNote is really amazing at allowing you to build out hierarchical processes, which is fantastic if you have employees, because at the end of the day, you have to be able to walk them through the same process every single time. If you get a new business manager or you bring in a copywriter, you need to be able to show this stuff to them in the same way, and they need to be able to work it in the same way.
100%. And again, you mentioned this already. I could select just one of these groups of tabs, right? And I could share the entire group of tabs with a copywriter or, an editor. Instead of having to share the entire notebook where they see my entire business laid out and maybe get very confused by trying to navigate through it, I can share only the things that are relevant quite easily.
Yeah, OneNote is really great for that and for working in teams and working in processes. And it's, let's be honest, pretty. It does have a really nice colorized system to it, and it looks good, which makes it, I think, more useful because you can add stuff, you can add backgrounds and pictures, and OneNote floats so you can put it anywhere on the screen, which I've always really liked. It's a great system.
This whole section is part of a book that I'm writing. I'm trying to see if I have pictures. No, I don't think I have any pictures in there right now, but
it works well to just drop stuff in. And OneNote, the web clipper, I would argue, is probably even better than Evernote's because it really allows you to take specific pieces of web pages and tuck it in without having to grab the whole thing.
yeah, and not just that. So grabbing pieces of web pages is great when I'm doing research and stuff, but OneNote will allow me to voice record into that page while I'm grabbing. So instead of having to type out some thoughts, I can grab something off a web page while I'm speaking, and it'll all be recorded so that myself later or my admin or John, my business manager, can come in and interact with that stream of conscious.
And I still use OneNote for the OCR because it is the best when I am working on my tablet and I want to just write stuff out. And it will convert all of that into pretty transferable text that I can then copy and paste elsewhere. So it's a fantastic system. And if you are having problems making Notion work for you, or you want something more like a blank piece of paper, then OneNote is definitely what I would recommend.
Or if you think the way that a book is organized.
I like that. there's
Without
tabs and yes.
table of content, exactly.
Hmm.
But without having to do all the extra work. Again, Word will do pieces of what we have here fairly well, but it takes a lot of extra work to build that table of content and put it over on the side of your thing so that you can click on the links. And you have to keep the links active, whereas OneNote keeps all those links active all native.
Hmm. Hmm. So is there anything else you'd like to add about the system or how you've made it work for you that you love?
Um, Again, it's a very complex way to use very simple tool. It works very well because of both the business process that runs alongside, i.e., I check in twice a day. When I check in, I always make sure I look for the things that have been bolded so that if my business manager or my admins have done some work, um, I can interact with that work directly through that bold. I make sure that I leave notes if there's something that I want that's not obvious. And, when I say something like that's not obvious, which is very subjective, you have to evolve what that means inside your business unit so that everybody who's interacting with your work understands as well as you expect them to understand.
Hmm. Yep, I agree. And I think this is one of the best ways out there to do that. All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining us again. Thank you, Lucas, for coming again. This has just been fantastic. Please do the likey, the followy, the clicky thingies, do the thingies. And we will see you again next time. Bye.
Thank you, Briar. Bye.